Hey, what's up? Your worst nightmare is here. It's Cliffosaurus. I had to change the name from Cliffosaur to Cliffosaur because I didn't realize I didn't know how to spell dinosaur. I realized I made a mistake. Anyway, here's why I love INFPs personally. Now, this is very vulnerable for me because I don't like to admit that I like certain people. I don't like to admit that there's certain people that make me feel all warm inside because it makes me feel vulnerable. And I don't like that. I don't like feeling vulnerable. But trust me, vulnerability is a strength. Vulnerability is a sign that you're confident. As I say this, I'm thinking about, man, my breath. I didn't even brush my teeth this morning. I didn't even fucking wash my fucking face, okay? Probably shouldn't say the F word. Okay, there's many reasons why I love INFPs. First of all, it's just an energy thing. I feel like INFJs and INFPs kind of recognize that we have a similar energy. I'm not sure if INFPs realize that I'm not an INFP myself. They probably think that I'm an INFP, but I never asked one, so maybe I should ask them next time. But I think they recognize that there's this energy kind of congruence, even though that we're actually technically quite different. Like the way that I operate in life is way different from the way they do, depending on their types. Like the Enneagram's also affected. I think it's just generally we like what we find familiar, or we like what we like what seems familiar. So when I see an INFP, I kind of am reminded of myself. Like usually we are annoyed by ourselves, right? But it's a weird thing where I recognize that they're like me, but they're actually very different, which makes it more intriguing for me. I like that INFPs are so different, I feel like INFPs are so different from most people. I just, with the amount of time that I've lived on this planet Earth and existed, I've met the whole spectrum of people, I would think. And it just seems like INFPs are just so different from everybody else. And I would say the same thing about INFJs, but INFJs are different, in the mind, but physically the way they manifest themselves seems to be a bit more basic, and it seems to be more mainstream than an INFP does. An INFP does just not care. They're the ones that are dressed completely outlandish in a setting where it might not even be appropriate. So yesterday I was at a mall and I saw people wearing super alt clothing, and I'm like, those people are definitely INFPs. And then actually I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say definitely. I just felt like they most likely were. It's a group of three, a guy and two girls. But it looks like one guy was in a relationship with one, and there's a friend. But they all seem like they were INFPs, so I mean, I guess they have a good time together. I don't know what's going on. And then there was another guy and girl that were dressed up all in goth. And I was looking at them, and I realized that I shouldn't be doing that. I looked at him, I smiled. I wasn't I didn't have this intimidating look in my face, but maybe, I don't know, I'm an INFJ, so maybe I did. But I noticed that they were in their goth clothing, and I was thinking about going up to them and being like, hey, how do I be more goth like you? And but I don't know, can Asians be goth? I don't think that's even possible. Anyway, long story short, I feel like INFPs are so interesting in that sense. They just seem to stand out from the crowd without really standing out from the crowd. It's quite a paradox. The other thing is I love how intellectual they can be. They're so intellectual, they're so smart, and they're very quick-witted. uh, like whenever I talk to an INFP, I find myself on my toes about like being clever, because usually I mean, when I'm with a normie person, like a sensor person, no offense sensors, but you seem like a normie to me. So there you go. But I love you still, kind of. I think that they're so quick-witted. They're very quick on their feet, like just naturally. They're NE, that makes them quick-witted. I'm on my toes when I have to talk to an INFP. It really throws me off, to be honest. I'm getting better at it though, so don't get too cocky. Overall, they're sweet people. They're nice people. They're just cold in the very beginning. Seems like they don't like you at first, and then you get to know them and they're super nice, and they just talk about everything and anything. I have had some of the best conversations with INFPs, the most in-depth conversations with INFPs. And I don't even feel like because there's people that I have in-depth conversations with, and I feel like if they could get out of it, they would. But INFPs, they're willing to go the distance, which I really appreciate, because I'm willing to go the distance. If I had to stay up all night just talking about like existence, life, and all these, like, this is like these topics that are not really talked about in life, like, I would just talk about it all night. I would. And I've had an INFP male friend that we would just like talk about these things. We talk about like religion, spirituality, all these like really deep topics for hours on end. And I love going the distance, and I love that. So overall, it's just like the experience that I have with INFPs are just so different that I have, like, sure, like, people say that our best matches are ENFPs and ENTPs, and I've had great experiences with them, and I've had like great connections with with ENTPs and ENFPs. But I just feel like something's missing. I feel like something's missing in those interactions. With INFPs, it just feels like this is as in-depth as it goes. This is as deep as it goes with another human being. If I were to maybe connect with another INFJ, maybe I've never really connected that deeply with another INFJ. So maybe that's like the only thing that could top that experience. It probably would, actually. I think if I actually met an INFJ, that it might actually top my experiences with INFPs. No offense, INFPs, but I'm just being honest. Like, that's how I see it. Anyway, I just want to say that even though I feel like a lot of y'all don't love me back, it's okay. I'll secretly admire you from the distance. That's how I operate. I don't have to have your affection to be happy, to admire you, to see that you're special and that you're cool. And you should just keep being your INFP self.